Let's do our prayers and then come to. Okay. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. Now you say the whole thing.
Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Padam
Shankaram Lokashankaram.
Very good. Okay? Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha.
Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam
Sutra Bhashya
Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah.
Very nice. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam.
Sadashiv Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam.
Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha.
Ishvaro
Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavadyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha.
Om Shri Dayanandeshwaraya Namaha.
Om Shri Dayanandeshwaraya Namaha.
Shri Harim Paramanandam
Shri Harim Paramanandam
Upadeshtaramishwaram
Upadeshtaramishwaram
Vyapakam Sarvalokanam
Vyapakam Sarvalokanam
Karanam Tam Namamyaham.
Karanam Tam Namamaham.
Aparokshanubhutirvai
Aparokshanubhutirvai
Prochyate moksha siddhaye.
Prochyate moksha siddhaye.
Sadviresha prayatnena
Sadviresha prayatnena
Vikshaniya muhurmuhu.
Vishaniyarmuhu
Svavarnashamadharmena
Svarnashamadharmena
Tapasa haritoshanat
Tapasa haritoshanat
Sadhanam prabhavet pumsam
Sadhanam prabhavet pumsam
Vairagyadi chatuštayam
Vairagyati chatushtayam
Brahmadistavaranteshu
Brahmadistavaranteshu
Vairagyam vishayeshvanu
Vairagyam vishveshvanu
Yathaiva kakavishtāyam
Yathaiva kakavishtāyam
Vairagyam tadhi nirmalam
Vairagyam tadhi nirmalam
Nityamatmasvarupam hi
Nityam atmasvarupam hi
Drishyam tadviparitagam
Drishyam tadviparitharangam
Evam yo nischayas samyaga
Evam evam yo nishchaya samyaga
Viveko vastu savai.
viveko vastuna svavai.
Sadaiva vas. Okay, this we'll do when we come to that. Okay. Okay. So let's go to our page number. I will go to page number 67.
69.
No,
69.
67 for the time being.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I'm just very quickly
Yes,
summarizing.
yes. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So Swamiji said, unpage firm conviction regarding Atma and Anatma. So there were two firm convictions. One is that only Atma is Nitya Vastu, and the second one is whatever is Drishyam is Anityam. These were the two Nishchayas that Swamiji said that one must necessarily have. Okay. Then I'm not looking at anything else, and we go to page 69 now. Okay. Desire for the permanent excludes the impermanent. That is page 69. Yeah. Whatever can come within the scope of mind or intellect or sense organs is going to be limited. First, one must understand that the whole universe can be objectified and is therefore impermanent. And whole universe includes our body mind sense complex. Because it has a beginning and is going to have an end, it is perishable. Everything in the universe is like that. It comes into being and finally it dissolves. So it is perishable. That being the case, it is impermanent. What is it here? Universe. It will last for billions of years, true, but it will have an end. Even Swarga, heaven, can be here for a long time, and Brahmaloka can be there for trillions of years, a whole cycle of creation, but they are still impermanent. Having any kind of attraction or value for what is impermanent deprives us of what is permanent, because a value or desire for the permanent and the impermanent cannot coexist in the mind. For example, I was trying to think of an example to give you. Supposing we have a choice, okay? One is to go for satsang. Going for satsang is representative, the desire to go for satsang is representative of desire for permanent. And the other is the choice of going to a movie. So desire for going to movie, we will call it as desire for impermanent vastu. So in this choice, okay, I can make a choice now. I can do either this or I can do that. Okay? So where will my desire go? Will it go for that which is permanent or will it go for that which is impermanent? So one excludes the other. So if you have desire for impermanent, then desire for permanent will be affected. Okay? And if you have desire for permanent, then your desire for impermanent would be, let's put it, it's more like, there's giving of priority. We give a priority, what is it that what I want. So if there is all that viveka that we were talking about, if that is there from before, then if viveka is there, then desire for permanent will win. Iti. Then now let's look at very interesting thing that Swamiji says. Whenever I desire something that is impermanent, however exalted or long lasting it is, it deprives me of the permanent, which is what I really want. Now I made a note here. This is just devil's advocate, okay? Being permanent, it is always there. That too, it is myself. So I'm not really deprived. You can't be really deprived. I mean, in a real sense, nobody is deprived. But what happens is, if the desire for impermanent is there, it does not allow me to see the fact that what I really desire is permanent. In that sense, it deprives me. Otherwise, permanent is permanent, it's not going to go anywhere. And it is yourself only. So you can't be deprived. Even if you want to be deprived, you can't be deprived. But when there is some other desire there, then it will stop you from seeing that what you are desiring is the permanent. Okay? And it will stop you from recognizing it. Then Bhatya uncle, freedom from excessive emotional attachment. This is going to be interesting now.
Freedom from excessive emotional attachment.
Hmm.
Generally, when Vairagya is discussed, the talk is always about attachment to the sense object. But if you listen to the bhajans, devotional songs of saints like Kabir and Mirabai, they talk about emotional attachment also. Kabir says that there is nobody who is mine in the whole world. Mirabai says, I left my brothers, relatives, friends, mother, father, everyone. In other words, Vairagya includes not only objects of pleasure, but also the level
At the
of
level.
sense, at the level of senses and mind, but also the pleasures coming from emotional gratification.
Ah.
Sensory
Continue.
sensory gratification is one kind of gratification, but emotional gratification is something different. That is why Lord Krishna says,
Asaktir.
Asaktir anbhishwanga, putra dar grihadishu. One of the values of the seeker is freedom from excessive attachment to putra, son, dar, spouse, graha, house, and so on. This is needed at first because one is likely to have excessive attachment to those whom one has long association, upon whom one is dependent all the time for a sense of well-being and security, whom one looks upon as a source of comfort and happiness and love. This is not only attachment, but excessive attachment. May one discover anbhishwanga, freedom from excessive attachment. This is the first step, namely to maintain only a non-binding relationship, a relationship of affection and care, but without excessive attachment to those who are close to you.
So how will one do this? By again and again, okay? Again and again, seeing that only Atma Vastu is Nitya. That means that even this close association, which is bringing me so much happiness and so much sense of security and well-being, even that association may come to an end. And therefore, it is the happiness that I'm getting from that, or the sense of security I get from that, the sense of well-being that I'm getting from that, is going to be maybe, maybe someday or the other affected. And therefore, let me have a value for Nitya Vastu. Iti. So keeping on repeatedly seeing that, that may help to loosen that this thing. Another thing, very important thing here is, this is all very big self-growth, kind of work that one does with oneself. And that is that learning to get satisfaction from oneself, in the sense that being centered on oneself, not selfish, not like self-centered in the sense of selfish, but learning to have santosha, a certain emotion, a certain satisfaction with oneself. There is a certain satisfaction in oneself. Meaning one is not that dependent upon the other person for one's own santosha. How to do this? Now that is, you can ask that question, ये कैसे करें भाई? ये तो बड़े बड़े वाक्य हैं, हम इसको कैसे करें? आप बताओ.
रोटी के लिए नीता के ऊपर डिपेंड करना ही पड़ेगा.
That is a physical
सब्जी के
need.
लिए ना तब
नहीं,
डिपेंड करना.
that is a survival need. Let me show you something. If I
हाँ, सर्वाइव.
Okay, let's look at this. Okay, we are looking at one. So these are the human needs. I was going to bring it up under the topic of vasana, which will come up later. But the topic we have already brought it up. So these are the human needs. Okay, need means my sense of well-being is dependent upon this. I have a need. It's not a, for example, the physiological needs are there for air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction. These are all physical needs. I would call them as survival needs are there. Safety needs are there. Personal security, you know, I should feel secure in my own home कि कोई robber ना आ जाए, कि और कुछ ना हो जाए. It is so sense of safety that at a physical level, this body is safe. It is. And for that, we may need money, for that, we need resources, we may need employment, we need health, you know, we may need some property. Iti. Safety needs are there. Then where we fall into problem is this particular need, love and belonging. Okay, love and belonging is a human need. It's a somewhat wonderful human need, I must say. Okay? So this love and belonging, what it does is it gives us a sense of connection. As human beings, we need to feel connected to one another, and in the family, we are connected to each other. So that is the sense of connection. Okay, intimacy, family, friendship, all this comes under. And what does this give us when this need is fulfilled? What does it give us? It makes us feel happy. If this need is not fulfilled, then we feel unhappy. So we are looking now only at the portion that may we not feel unhappy, supposing the need cannot be fulfilled for whatever reason. If that need, and it's a need, you know, so we generally ask, is your need for love and belonging, you know, it's being fulfilled on a scale of 1 to 10? Where are you? Somebody may say number 5. So if I say number 5, I'll say, are you satisfied with number 5? One person may say, yes, I'm satisfied with 5, with this much only. Another person may say, no, I'm not satisfied. It should be at number 8 or it should be at 10. Okay? My need for feeling that sense of belonging, that sense of this thing, should be at number 8. This is where we will say then that now it is becoming excessive attachment. It is. Yeah? Because now I am dependent on something external which I don't control. The problem with all of this is that we don't control that. Who is in control? The other person is in control, number 1. And finally, Ishvara is in control. No, I am not in control as an individual. I don't control this. If the person is not available, so Ishvara is the one who is in control. Therefore, we are told that look at this again and again, you know, this need for love and belonging. And again, the need for self-esteem, for respect, for status, for recognition. All of those needs, look at it again. So, according to Shastra, learn to connect to Ishvara. Learn to connect, learn to see that Ishvara is the one who is in control with reference to this need. The real control, क्या बोलते हैं? जो the puppeteer, the real puppeteer is Ishvara. Ite. And so connect to Ishvara more and more, connect to Ishvara, recognizing that yes, I have this, I am satisfied with it, and thank you, Ishvara. And slowly learning to find santosha from within oneself. That it is okay. So I'm not talking about the physical need. Yeah, जैसे आपने बोला कि रोटी के लिए मैं अनीता के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट हूँ. रोटी के लिए तो हम सब किसी के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट है और फिर फाइनली ईश्वरा के ऊपर ही डिपेंडेंट है. Our ultimate dependence is on Ishvara only. Iti. So this is, I'm talking about that sense of connection. It's a very important human need, We need to feel connected. So let us first let us feel connected to Ishvara, who is the one who gives us all those people to whom we are connected. The given in every situation is given by Ishvara. We are connected to our spouse, we are connected to our family, we are connected to our siblings, we are connected to our teachers. How did they come into our life? Ishvara. Iti. Yeah. So as Pujya Swamiji used to say, that the ultimate being the devotee is being devoted to Ishvara and through Ishvara to everything else. Iti. That would be the real solution. Yeah, to this. Otherwise, it's very tough. Anyway, it's very tough. But maybe when we do satsang like this, it will be helpful. It puts a seed of some ideas in our mind, some concepts in our mind, and towards which we will work. Yeah, towards which we work. This includes everybody, includes me also, all of us. Okay. So, so he's saying here, so he talked about excessive attachment. So one discover anabhishwangaha. So this anabhishwangaha is through attachment to Ishvara. Freedom from excessive attachment that comes from attachment to Ishvara. Recognizing that relationship with Ishvara is the ultimate relationship, and the ultimate connection also. This is the first step, namely to maintain only a non-binding relationship. All easy to say, it's okay. A relationship of affection and care, but without excessive attachment. So keep on seeing that Nitya Vastu is only Ishvara. And Ishvara is the one who is the one in control over here. Okay? So Namaha to Ishvara. Iti, that Namaha all the time. Then the next one will be Anita. To know the self, the mind must be focused on the self.
To know the self, mind must be
Focused.
with chashma Pujya.
Oh,
On
to
this-
जाके ले आओ. You won't be able to read. ये छोटे-छोटे letters हैं.
नहीं चश्मा तो लगा हुआ है, अभी
हाँ.
लगा दिया मैंने, शीशा निकल गया था.
Oh, मेरी भी निकलती जाती है.
Ultimately, of course, the idea of vairagya is simple knowledge of the self can take place provided the mind is centered on the self. The mind is our instrument of knowledge. We have to focus our mind on whatever it is that we want to know. Here it is the self that we want to know. And therefore, the mind must be directed to and focused upon the self. Values prepare the mind for knowledge. All the values are taught in the context of self-knowledge. Like any other knowledge, self-knowledge can take place only when the mind is free from doing many things. I can perceive an object only provided that my mind is steady and not doing anything else at the time. Knowledge requires a mind that is free from doing more, becoming more, achieving more, or acquiring more. That is why they talk about sannyasa, where all this doing and acquiring and possessing is given up. Sannyasa is sometimes seen as deserting people, but it is not. All of these values are simply for knowledge. Knowledge of the self requires a mind that is directed and focused upon the self to the exclusion of everything else. Knowledge of this. The only purpose of all these values is to help us acquire a learning mind and finally a seeing mind. Having a learning mind means that when I expose this mind to the teacher, it has no other agenda. Finally, it becomes a seeing mind with no other agenda, free from all its preoccupations.
Yeah. Next paragraph I will take because a lot of Sanskrit is there. But in this previous Swamiji has just emphasized that why do we have so many values? So that we get a mind which is ready for learning. Yeah. And we get a mind that is an objective mind. Iti. Okay. The sixfold inner wealth. The first two qualifications, Viveka and Vairagya, have now been described. The third qualification is known as Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, the sixfold inner wealth. Sampatti means wealth and Shatka means six. The word Adi means beginning with. The six qualities are Shama, Dama, Uparama or Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha and Samadhana. This list comes from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which says, Shanto Danta Uparates Titikshuhu Shraddha Vitto Bhutva Atmani Eva Atmanam Pashyati. And in footnote 49, he who knows the glory of the self feels Shanti, tranquility of mind, Dante, discipline in action, Uparati, abundance, Titiksha, endurance, and Shraddha, faith. He knows the self within the body mind sense complex as the self of all. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is from the Shukla Yajurveda, which has got two shakhas or recensions known as Kanva and Madhyan, Madhyandina. Madhyandina. There are some minor differences between the texts in these two recensions. The Kanva version, which is quoted above, lists Shraddha as the fifth quality. The other recension gives a different term here, namely Samadhana, absorption. Each recension therefore lists five, but they differ in one. These two lists were combined in the tradition, and that is how we come up with six qualities. Shanti, that is Shama, Danti, Dama, Uparati, Uparama, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhana, Samadhana. The point is that all of these qualifications have their source in the Upanishads. They are not figments of somebody's imagination. So we can rely upon something only when the ultimate source is Veda. The author describes the sixfold inner wealth in the following verses. Sadaiva vasana tyagaha
Sadaiva vasana tyagaha
shamoyam iti shabditaha
shamoyam
Yam
iti
iti
shabditaha
sabdataha
nigraho bahya vrittinam
nigraho
vrittinam
dama ityabhidhiyate.
dama iti vidhyate.
just read it once. Sadeva vasana tyagaha
Sadev
shamoyamiti shabditaha nigraho bahya vrittinam dama ityabhidhiyate. Sada eva, at all times. Vasana tyagaha, giving up the unmanifest impressions that lead to desires and aversions. Shama, tranquility of mind. Ayam, that is, iti, thus. So, shamoyam is shamaha, ayam iti. Okay. Shabditaha, called. Nigrahaha, restraint. Bahya vrittinam, external activity. Damaha, restraint. Iti, thus, abhidhiyate is called. Giving up at all times the unmanifest impressions that lead to desires and aversions is called shama, tranquility of mind. We will need to read ahead, because immediately the question will come, how can we give up that which is unmanifest? No? So that we will read the explanation. Restraint and with regard to external activity is called dama or restraint. Now our Suni uncle can read the manifest requires the unmanifest.
The manifest require the unmanifest. Vasana is the subtle state of thought before it becomes manifest in the mind. Every thought exists in the form of a vasana, also called samskara, unmanifest impression. It is like a lump of gold which potentially contains all gold or if something is not potentially there in the gold, even a goldsmith cannot make it manifest. A goldsmith cannot make a loaf of a bread out of a gold, for example, because bread is not there as a potential. Something can become manifest provided it is there in its unmanifest state. The unmanifest state is called the karana, cause, and the manifest state is called the karya, effect. It is the cause which becomes manifest as the effect. So the thoughts in our mind are effects of something. The effect we are presently concerned with is raga dvesh. The first three items in the list of sixfold qualities, sama, dama, and uprati, are nothing but vairagya put into practice. Understanding vairagya is one thing, and assimilating vairagya, having it become your way of life, is a different thing. It is a different thing because now you have understood that all non-self is aditya, transient, and mithya, not independently real. You realize that non-self cannot give you what you are seeking, and therefore you do not want it.
Yeah, so this is quite clear. I hope. It looks to me that it's clear. And this was very nice way of saying that Shama, Dama, Uparati are nothing but Vairagya put in practice. Okay? Very nice. So it is hoped now that we have understood that non-self is anitya, meaning it is temporary, and that it is mithya, it is not independently real. This is a very important part, that all non-self is not independently real. Not independently real means
it is not dependent. Not dependent.
Yeah, but let's look at it. Two types of
Nitya.
No, not two types of mithya. The two how shall we call it? Two categories or two levels. Two levels of dependence. Okay, so one is of course dependence on lot of local factors, right? For example, a chapati is dependent on the flour, it is dependent on the water, it is dependent on the heat from the fire, it's dependent on the tawa, okay, and the fire is dependent on the gas is dependent on the cylinder is dependent on etc etc, it goes on. Okay, so the local dependence is itself an endless thing. It will go on and on and on. Then the chapati is also dependent upon you, the conscious being, to reveal it, to illuminate. So the dependence of the chapati is at different levels, you know. So that all that is drishya is not only anitya, it is also dependent. And ultimately, it is dependent on you, the conscious being, to illuminate, to reveal it, to give it any being. Okay? It is dependent on you. So that mithyatvam needs to be understood in this very way. Okay? That it is, one is it's anitya, the other is that there is a gradation of dependence. Iti. So it has got no independent reality of its own. And therefore we call it mithya. A totally new word, you know. So and then what is the thing which is independently real? Shastra points out it is only the consciousness that you are. Other than that, there is nothing which is independently real. Everything else is dependent on, and that too endlessly dependent. It's a samsara by itself, the dependence. Okay? It's a very important understanding because this can give a fair amount of vairagya. Okay?
All worldly desires are all anitya.
Yeah. And when we have worldly desire, any desire, forget worldly, emotional desire or any blessed desire is there. That desire is dependent. To fulfill that desire, we are dependent on endless number of factors. Okay. Then the object of our desire is also dependent on endless number of factors. And those endless number of factors on which that object is dependent, we don't control. That is the important thing to understand here. That we don't control the object of our desire. We are not in control. The human heart is such, it always tries to control, you know, it wants to be in control. So even in relationships, we want to be in control. We want to control the other person. We want to control. But the truth is that in reality, we are not fully in control. There are many, many variables going into everything. That is the nature, the very nature of drishya, you know. So even when we have desire, even if it's an emotional desire, that emotional gratification that we get, you know, we are getting it from some external object, then that external object from which we are getting is not something which we can control completely. That understanding can perhaps give a fair amount of vairagya.
The Guru Maharaj, then what about the non-binding desires?
Non-binding desire is fine. It's not doesn't bother you at all.
No, it doesn't bother.
We are only bothered about binding desires.
No, but the scripture
In
says.
Pujya Swamiji's, Pujya Swamiji was a very brilliant person, you know. So he put it in context. What is it that's going to cause samsara for you? What really causes samsara for you?
No, but by the fact,
See,
by the.
If I like to eat dosa, okay, if my happiness depends on my dosa, then it becomes binding. But if my happiness is not dependent upon dosa, if it comes well and good, I enjoy it. Sometimes I might want dosa. I will tell this girl Varsha कि मेरे लिए dosa बना दो आज. But then if I can't have the dosa, I am not miserable. And that's a non-binding desire. So we don't really bother about nine. When we talk about raga dvesha, we are talking only about binding desire.
No, by the strict sense, that scripture says any desire means you are not poor because any desire. whether it is binding or non-binding. But as per the definition,
Non-binding doesn't move you anyway. Hello, understand what non-binding means. Why did Pujya Swamiji make a categorization of non-binding and binding desire? Really understand what it means. Only binding desire is going to cause you a problem. Non-binding desire is as good as no desire. This doesn't cause you a problem. You are not disturbed by it. It's just in fact, it's a preference. That's all. It's not literally a desire on which you depend for your well-being, and your sense of security or your sense of happiness or your sense of contentment. No, it's as good as not having a desire. In fact, we'll call it as a preference. If you want to give a word to non-binding desire, call it as preference. Preference means if it's there, okay. If it's not there, fine.
no, I don't
It's
want
like
to.
Krishna had that, he had a preference. Even Krishna had a preference for peacock feather.
No, even for an enlightened person, ultimate the scripture says, even he doesn't have a desire for moksha because he has already attained the enlightenment.
Yeah, that's a different matter altogether. No, how is it connected here? That he doesn't have a desire for moksha is because he has already recognized himself. So where is the desire for moksha now? How can there be a desire for when you already realize that what I want is what I have? Then how can there be a desire for it? No, there will be no desire. Really, there will be no desire. And similarly, because of that contentment, Atmani eva Atmana tushtaha, because of that contentment with himself, recognizing the Purnatvam of the self and recognizing that I am that Purna self, that person has no real desire. Because of having a human embodiment, there can be a preference that yes, I will prefer to have dosa instead of having chapati, or I'll prefer to have rice instead of having chapati. That kind of preference can be there. But you don't count it as a desire. Desire, when we talk raga dvesha here, it is only binding desire. Okay? So to that extent, we deal with it. To the extent it is binding. Yeah. If it's not binding, it's not a desire, it's a preference. Say, okay, good. If it is there, very good. If it is not there, okay. Okay. Because
Guruma,
that recognition of Purnatvam is just a wonderful thing, huh?
desire for gulab jamun.
Desire for gulab can be non-binding.
Non-binding.
Yes,
if it is binding, then you have to work on it.
Problem.
No, then work on it. And then do muhur dosha darshanam. Again and again you will do dosha darshanam, so that it becomes non-binding eventually. Yeah, so this whole vairagya thing is probably the crux, It requires a lot of maturing. Like old wine, we mature. True life. Living life, we will mature. थोड़ा इधर उधर धक्का वक्का खा के आस्ते आस्ते, इफ नॉट इन दिस लाइफ, अगले लाइफ भी तो है, तो मैच्योर है. बहुत मैच्योर करके हम आए हैं, इसलिए ये टॉपिक में इंटरेस्ट है.
तभी तो पढ़ रहे हैं.
तभी तो पढ़ रहे हैं. तभी तो पढ़ रहे हैं. So we can stop now. Yeah.
Because one or two questions I can ask.
Please ask.
Although they are not related with this, but it is related with our, day-to-day life. Because what we are studying, I am not a Jnani, but I am studying it and be associated with Dr. Bhatia and your grace, and for the last about maybe 20 years. Yeah. I may not be regularly. So we understand that everybody is a Brahman. Everybody is a Brahman, and the other man with whom I am dealing. So now I am not in a regular, normal job because I have no retired. But those who are in a regular job, once he is going with a subordinate, with a chauffeur, so humanitarian part is okay. But otherwise, I know that he is also a Brahman, I am also a Brahman. When we go to a restaurant, We don't ask that Brahman to come and sit by my side and eat with me.
I do, by the way.
Nay,
See, in
you do
Chennai,
that-
when I was
that-
going
Nay, but
for
that will
pilgrimages, I was
Nay.
calling the driver, come and sit with
Nay,
us.
but no, that is okay. That also, you see, when we come with our driver, with the Manoj driver, he comes also sits with us. But that is true once or twice. But if you are in a regular job and if you behave with a subordinate in a similar way, that will create a indiscipline in life.
That is for you to if I would imagine that would be for you to your interaction with your subordinate would determine whether it is going to create an indiscipline or not, because you can still be very firm. You may give equality at one level and still be firm, but Shastra does not demand equality at Vyavahara level, by the way.
That
There
is
is
what
no
I.
demand for equality at Vyavahara level, because even when we do puja and there are 2 3 there's the homa being done and there are assistants in that, you will give different dakshina to different people, even though all of them are Brahman. Iti. Okay, and then so the officer will get a different salary, the driver will get a different salary. So in your mind you can keep that you are Brahman and the other person is Brahman, and therefore at least treat the person with respect. You don't treat them with disrespect. You may not call them to your table to sit with you, that's okay, that's your decision, but at
No,
least do not treat with disrespect.
no,
You
I
see, I
wanted
see
to.
very common in Indian families. If there is a servant in the house, the way the tone of voice used with the servant is very very derogatory. Funny love, it will be like that all the time, ordering all the time in a very the other person will feel demeaned. So you don't act with the other person in such a way that their atma vishwas comes down. That's all. Just take it as that much. That your recognition that there is one Ishvara in each and every one, make sure that you act with others in such a way that their self respect is not affected. If you need to scold someone, that's a different matter. And then there also you can scold in such a way that you do not hurt the self respect of the person. You scold in the way of showing the fact that, okay, this is not, you have not done this correctly. This can be done in this way. You can point that out in a voice which is not such a voice that will cause the other person's self esteem to come
He
down.
not felt hurt at all.
Yeah. So that basic respect for other person being a human being, forget Brahman, yeah. Brahman to बहुत ऊपर है, पर at least human being level पे हम आ जाए.
Every day we are talking Brahman. So it is always
हम
there.
at least human respect रखते हैं कि this person is
The
a human.
human part is there that most. और जो आपने कहा ना आजकल गुरुमा it is very difficult. Nobody can no domestic help will work for you if one behaves that way. But I only found that well we are studying Parmarthik and Vyavaharik and Parmarthik. There is a
Oh yes,
there is a
and
very
it should be. It's meant to be also there.
that is what I want to clarify.
Yeah, yeah. It is meant to be there.
Yeah, humanitarian part is there. That always you treat the other person on a human ground,
On the
and
human.
you definitely probably treat him as you are treating yourself. If it is a
Yeah. You try as much as you can, within your within one's own limits, okay, of one's own mind, and then within one's own limits of whatever the immediate circumstances demanding from you, right? When I went for this, I used to go for Tirtha Yatras, and then we used to have one driver, and I would always invite him that come and eat with us, come into the restaurant, sit with us and eat with us. So he'll be on the same table with us. Luckily, all of us were the same. Savitri would be there, Kalpana and me, and this driver will be there. Then if I went into the temple and then this special darshan, because you pay for that special darshan and you go, I will pay for him and take him to that special darshan. He's not going to get that opportunity again. So I will do that. What goes for me? Nothing goes. You just show that respect. And really, they respect you more for that. We are not
Very well.
joking. Yeah. They at least, That is called including the other person, you know. You include that other person in your this thing. So I don't keep that kind of barrier anymore. Earlier I had it little bit, but now it's not there. So I think we can stop with this because we're already in 54 minutes. See?
Yes.
50 minutes probably because I started 5 minutes early. Yeah. Okay. Om Purnamada. Next time will be lot of interesting discussions. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. That's what we can do, you know. We can't influence wars here and there.